The following program was produced under the influence.
Coming up on the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
A lot of people think orange wine is from oranges.
We just fermented some orange juice. It's delicious.
It was this catch-22. They said you need wine knowledge to get the job, but you can't get the wine knowledge without having the job. The other thing is that musicians, if you talk to them, or actors, they don't see any other possibility for themselves. They're like, I'm going to be a musician or I'm going to be homeless. And I wasn't like that. I knew I was good at other things and I had other passions.
And now, the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
The cell phones have been silenced. The wine is poured. That means something good is about to happen. And just like that, the podcast begins. The Tall Mike Wine Podcast. The wine podcast, it's not all about wine. It's certainly wine adjacent. The wine podcast like no other. Heard in 94 countries on 6 continents and in 48 of these United States. Coast to coast, from Palm Bay, Florida to Hilliard, Ohio, from Woodburn, Oregon to Hoffman, New Jersey. And don't look now, but there seems to be a cluster of new listeners in Bangalore, India. Thank you so much for finding the podcast wherever you are. Share it with a friend. Share it with your neighbors. Share it with your dentist. Get the word out. Help the podcast grow and thrive. And if you'd like to help keep the podcast commercial free, become a sponsor. Just a few bucks a month is all it takes. Yeah, it's the holiday season. You're throwing money around. Toss a little my way. Click the support the show link in the show notes or go to tallmikewine.com. Please and thank you. Now, let's get the conversation going. My guest is standing by via Zoom. I'm here in my home studio in Novato, California, back after a few weeks on the road in the Pacific Northwest. You can hear the action if you scroll back the last few episodes from up there. My guest is beaming in from somewhere. He is a certified sommelier who spent a lot of years in the restaurant world. Now he's much more visible. His YouTube show, which combines food, wine, travel, and education, racks up nearly 40,000 views a week. And now he's in airports. His show is featured on Reach TV in airports all over the country. My guest is the host and executive producer of V is for Vino, and V is also for Vince. Vince, answer. Hello, Vince.
Hello. Good to be here.
Where are you?
I'm in suburb of Chicago.
Suburb of Chicago.
I'm a Midwest boy at heart.
Okay. And winter is settling in there, I guess.
Oh, yeah, it is here. We had no fall. We went right from summer to winter. Seems to be the trend these years. It is piled up outside in 30 degrees, and I'll get to see the sun again in February. By the way, I thank you for having me. I love when somebody's found the thing that they're supposed to do. You joked before we started that you have a face for radio. Well, you have a voice for radio, and I love when people have found their calling. It really is just tremendous to hear you do your little intro. It brings joy to my face.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for saying so. I have been binge watching your show. It's pretty slick. How many people does it take to put together?
It is a smaller crew than you might imagine. I think that surprises people.
You got a lot of great stuff going on. You've got all these drone shots. You've got something I like to refer to as walking and talking sequences where you're interviewing somebody out in a public space, but you're walking and talking. And I always wonder when I see those kinds of things, do you have to be really careful about bumping into people and making sure there's a clear path?
Yeah, so I do these, I call them walk and talks too, where I'm talking to the camera. When I'm interviewing somebody, it's not quite as challenging, but oftentimes I'm doing these semi-scripted segments where I'm talking to the camera, but I'm in the middle of a busy downtown. And I just learned early in this process to just tune it out. I don't even focus on the people. And every other take, you're going to get somebody who comes in and ruins the take, either inadvertently or intentionally. They'll come in and wave or what have you. So you just put the horse blinders on and you just kind of focus on the camera and you do it as many times until the camera guy says, okay, we got a good take.
Walk me through a typical episode from beginning. How do you build it? What's the planning like? And how long does it take to make one episode?
Yeah. So you ask a crew size. We're a pretty small crew. I'm the host and executive producer along with my wife, who's the producer. On the ground, we probably have 5 to 6 of us. Usually it's the 2 I just mentioned, me and my wife. Then we have 2 to 3 cameras, and sometimes a PA kind of helping us out, maybe operating a third camera or helping us just with miscellaneous tasks. It's about a year from start to finish for an episode. Now, we're usually working on a couple at a time, but it's a fairly long process. We decide where we're going to go. We start reaching out to entities. Once we have everything locked in, okay, this is where we're going to go. We have to plan everything from start to finish. I think people think we get to show up and, just kind of show up on the day of these wineries, but we really plan hour by hour every day of the schedule. When we're actually shooting, we're usually at about a 6-day shoot now. When we started, our first episodes were 1.5 to 2 day shoots, and we just didn't sleep. Sure. Now we've grown. We have a little more budget, which is quite nice. So we're at a 6 to 7 day shoot wherever we go. The post-production process, we talked a little about editing before the mic started rolling. I mean, editing is the secret sauce. You can have all the ingredients for a great dish, but you got to know how to put them together. And so spend a lot of time in post-production, usually 3 to 6 months, kind of getting everything where we want, because that also includes QCing. It also includes kind of our marketing, our trailers, things like that. And then we launch. So about a year from start to finish.
It's funny when you say people think you just show up and you get in front of the camera and you go, action, and it's like, okay, we're here and we're ready. In essence, that's making it seem easy to do. And I've always felt that the real definition of talent is doing something that is very complex and complicated, but making it look easy. And my favorite example of that is listening to Frank Sinatra sing. Because
it's funny because I was going to say, I used to follow that philosophy in music. I was a drummer, and I was told that same thing.
That Frank Sinatra, you hear him singing and it just sounds effortless, like he's walking through the park, but his phrasing and his breaths and the way he bends notes and bends words and jumps in ahead and behind of the tempo is something that is, you almost couldn't teach that to somebody.
Yep, that's what my drum teacher used to tell me. He said the best players make it look easy even though it's hard. I use that a little bit too. My show is very education heavy. And I always say if you can't explain it quickly and easily and simply, you don't understand it well enough yourself. And
that's
I try and take that philosophy with me on the show. We condense down everything to the core. Beethoven, I think, once said, just enough notes, not too many, not too few. The goal is enough to give you the information and not so much that you're overwhelmed.
And don't forget to leave some space in between the notes. Those little pauses. Some people are afraid of the pause. They're like, we just have to keep moving and moving and moving. But the pauses actually create the tension. And that's the same with speaking, public speaking, as well as with music. How many episodes are you planning at one time? I imagine the logistics are complex, arranging interviews and tastings and flight plans. How many do you have right now that are in progress?
Yeah. So this year was a bit of an anomaly of a year. I welcomed a baby girl into the world with my wife.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We've been quite busy. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to film for about a 6 to 8 month period between the late pregnancy and the early newborn phase. So I filmed both Georgia and Croatia back to back.
Okay.
And
you're kind of in the same part of the world.
Exactly. So Georgia, we edited, released first. Now we're moving on to Croatia, which will come out end of February, beginning of March. Okay. At the same time, we're also pitching all our 2026 episodes to a few locations, none of which I can commit to yet, but they're all over the world, which I'm excited about.
Now, here's a personal question. After watching a few of your episodes, do you have a stylist?
I have a stylist.
You have a very crisp style. Your hair is always on point. The outfits you choose make you look like every man, but every man on his best dressed day. I just want to say you're looking good. You're looking good.
This is a compliment I've never received. You could probably thank my wife for that. I really appreciate that because I do think about it often. I'm not really into that world at all, by the way.
Okay.
Like I don't like picking what I have to wear every day. Okay. But I am self-conscious about it when I'm on camera.
Sure.
And my wife on the shoots always does a good job making sure that, especially the hair, if I did a take and I flubbed a word, that's one of her biggest roles. So you have my wife to thank for that.
That's awesome. Yeah. The latest episode takes you all the way to Georgia, the country. What's going on in Georgia? What are the grapes? How are the people?
Georgia was, I say this not to pat our team and myself on the back, But because it's the feedback we've gotten since the episode came out, I do think it's one of the best, if not the best episodes we've had the pleasure of making. And that's mostly because the people and the culture there is incredible. It was a place that was not on my radar from a wine perspective, at least not from a visiting, make an episode perspective. I knew it had invented wine. I'd had some of the amber wines in the past, but it wasn't on my radar as a destination to visit. I have never been so over the top surprised and humbled by an experience. The Georgian people are obsessed with wine, obsessed as much, if not more, than the French. It's at every table. Every list you go to when you go to a restaurant is amazing. They have wine shops all over every city, but they don't hold it in reverence the way that the French do. They do hold it in reverence in the sense that it's very ancient and part of their culture, even part of their religion. But then the drinking experience is very much an experience of fun, joy. It's non-analytical. They drink most of their wine in like what looks like rock glasses or like little water glasses.
Okay.
They drink it quickly. They cheers. They drink big, you cheers, you have to down your glass. They say when you cheers and you toast in Georgian, you have to cheers and you have to drink your whole glass and then you tip it over, and the amount of drops left are the amount of enemies you wish upon others. So you don't want to wish upon others any enemies, so you must drink all your glass.
Okay. Wow. They have a lot of fun, it sounds like.
They have a lot of fun. They have over 500 indigenous grapes, and they pretty much exclusively use indigenous grapes, and they're very proud of that. Not only do they use those grapes, but they see it as a resource, especially some of the... I spoke to a winemaker at a winery called Vazi Subani. His name is Lado, and he's kind of a rock star in Georgian winemaking, but he sees this kind of Rolodex of grapes as something that could really help the rest of the world, whether it be planting new varieties to deal with, a changing climate or a disease. He sees it as a resource that Georgia can offer the world. And so they're very, very proud of their indigenous varieties more than any other country I've been to.
Some of them I've read, and they're a bit of a mouthful to pronounce. Can you roll a few of them off the top of your head?
Yeah, the two that you need to know are the white / primarily amber variety is Riccatzelli. It's RK at the beginning, so it's like two consonants in a row. They kind of skip the R. They just kind of say Cazzelli.
Okay.
And then the red that they're most planted is Saperavi. Between the two of those, you've got about 2/3 of the plantings in the whole country.
Okay.
But they do keep all these other grapes alive, and some of them are predominantly used. Like I'm drinking right now a Chinuri. There's one called Mitzvane that I saw a lot, blended with Riccatzelli. Kisi, another one blended with Riccatzelli. And then they have just this treasure trove of smaller grapes that can do really fun things. I had a wine at Kariba Winery that was a very lean style of, he did a passerillage style. So he dried the grapes to concentrate sugar, but the wine was still only 11-12% alcohol. So it was like a lean style of that dried character. It was really fun. I had wines that reminded me of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir at Chateau Moukrani, which if you closed your eyes, you could have swore they were from Burgundy. They really have a lot of fun wines worth exploring. I think, unfortunately, only so many are imported or exported to other countries, and that's really the problem.
I would say that the Georgian wine is not on anybody's radar here in the United States, unless you're way into seeking out the unknown.
Well, I think it's got really popular in natural wine scene, and I actually think that's a mistake. Because I think that a lot of the wines there's a misconception that all Georgian wine is amber, all Georgian wine is natural. Couldn't be further from the truth. A lot of them are just traditionally made. There are a lot of quote unquote natural wines. And when we talk about this wine, I want to talk about what their definition is of natural versus what I think people's perception of natural is. But there's a lot of traditional wines out there. These wines should not be relegated to wine bars is basically what it comes down to.
Okay, and the hipster wine scene. I'm going to ask you how you came up with Vias for Vino in a bit, but first, at this point in the show, we all want to know, Vincent, what's in your glass?
What's in my glass? I'm sorry I jumped the gun. I was excited about it.
That's okay.
This is Iago's winery, and this is his Chinuri. So this is one of the wines that we featured on the
Chinuri.
episode.
Okay,
Chinuri,
hang on.
Yes.
Hang on just a second. I want you to hold it up. Smile pretty for the camera because this is the picture I have to take for the Instagram post for the episode. There you go. You're looking good. You got that boyish smile. Great stuff. A face made for YouTube. So tell me about
Not quite
the
TV,
wine.
YouTube.
Just YouTube, yes. You're not network quality, I guess. So tell me about the wine. Tell me about the grape. How do they make it?
So this is what you would call, by all traditional standards, a natural wine. It checks all the boxes. He's not using any additives. He's not using any filter,
Native yeast fermented.
Native yeast fermented.
Okay.
Nothing in the vineyard that you wouldn't want sprayed on there.
Right.
But to me, after I speak with Iago, if you watch the episode, you'll see that he sees it. He doesn't make wine that is natural because it's trendy. He believes in natural everything, not just wine. He loves nature, and he wants to let nature do what nature does. And he believes that Qvevri winemaking and amber winemaking allow him to do that. The reason is because when you use the Qvevri are these giant, they're basically amphorae, but they're buried underground, giant clay vessels.
Okay, I've
used
seen
in
them.
Georgia
I've
for
seen them,
8,000 years. Yeah, and they bury them underground. The Qvevri allow you to have natural temperature fermentation.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to use any artificial cooling, anything like that, or natural temperature regulation because you're underground and keeping it cool. The Qvevri is a natural vessel. It's not stainless steel. You can make amber wine in stainless steel, right? You can make skin contact wine stainless, but he thinks it should be a naturally produced vessel. He cleans the Qvevri with natural ingredients. So a lot of the natural wine that gets a bad rap was because they were making it in Qvevri, but they weren't cleaning it properly because it was trendy to do natural wine, but they didn't know the history, right? So he cleans it with limestone and ash, I believe he said.
Okay.
And you can actually go physically inside these giant underground Qvevri and clean them. And I went inside in the episode. They're really, really big. So, okay, the Qvevri is a vessel that is natural, right? Then by making amber wine as opposed to other forms of wine, like traditional white wine from this white grape, for instance.
And what a lot of people in this country have come to be called orange wine, right?
Yeah,
skin
orange wine.
contact,
Amber,
white wine
skin contact,
turns
orange, all
Okay.
the same.
Just want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing.
I should have clarified that from the beginning. The reason they call it amber, I think, is not, a lot of people think orange wine is from oranges. So they just didn't want that.
We just fermented some orange juice. It's delicious.
And then skin contact, technically red wine is skin contact too. So I think amber is where they landed. The reason they prefer to do amber wine is because it allows you to naturally produce a wine that is stable. You have the skins, which provide your tannins, your natural antioxidants.
Right.
So you don't have to lean on sulfites or things, the added sulfites.
Natural preservatives from the skin of the grapes.
Exactly. And then when you're using the skins, if you just made a white wine, you wouldn't have that. And then to get the skins out by using the Qvevri, what they do is the skins will slowly sink to the bottom of the Qvevri and you have natural filtration. So as opposed to having to use either a filter, or some wineries will use things like egg whites or things like that, you can naturally just basically take the wine, skim it off the top. All the filtered ingredients remain at the bottom of the Qvevri.
All right.
And so from start to finish, you have
Very
a natural wine. Yeah. And what's amazing is that it is squeaky clean. People think that these wines, and they can be, they think that they're dirty, right? They have off flavors. They they're not shelf stable. They can't stay for long periods of time or keep for long periods of time. None of that is true when the wine is made right. And so that's a long way of saying that is what I have in my glass.
Okay, yeah, hold that glass up again so I can take a picture of the color. Oh yeah, look at that. That's good.
Yeah, and it looks a little pink on my screen. It's much more kind of.
I mean, you could just say, "Oh, he's having a rosé. Look at that. He's drinking a rosé."
So going into this wine in particular, it's spent 7 months on the skins.
Okay.
And what Iago told me is, I said, how do you determine how long you let the skins go? He said, nature tells us. What people used to do is they keep these Qvevri outside in their garden because they didn't have a cellar. Everybody made wine at home. And so when the flowers bloom, that's when you get through winter, the flowers bloom, it's time to take it out. If it's still snowing, it's too early. And you don't want to wait until it gets too hot because then then the wine will spoil. So he says, nature tells us as soon as the flowers bloom, we take it out. So this spent 7 months on the skins. And what you get from that skin contact is just Unlike anything else in the wine world, the spice, I love when I get white pepper in some of these wines. I think that's a very common thing. Walnuts, dried fruit, dried nuts. But then you get the freshness of a white wine. You get the fresh stone fruit character, a lot of like juicy tangerine notes. It's really, really a fun wine. And on the palate, backbone, freshness, acidity, integrated acidity, but some backbone, some tannin from the skin contact.
Sounds delicious.
It's a lot of fun.
Sounds amazing. Amber wine from Georgia.
Yep. Chinuri is the grape. Kartli is the region. The most planted region in Georgia is Kakheti. Kartli is the oldest wine planting region in Georgia, and it's right by the capital, Tbilisi. So if you go to Georgia, you can get there very easily.
That's cool, man. Sounds like you're having fun, hopping all over the globe. And you get a chance.
I hope it's a fun wine. I wanted to bring a cool one for this.
It's a great wine. I love the story. I love the story of the underground amphora and everything. When we're finished recording today, I want you to give me your address there in Chicago so I can send you some of the official coasters of the Tall Mike Wine podcast. You can see it there on your screen. And I mail these out to anybody and everybody listening to the podcast. And if you would like your very own stack of official Tall Mike Wine podcast coasters, simply email me at tallmikewine@gmail.com. Vince, are you from the Chicago area originally? You said you're a Chicago guy?
I'm a Midwest guy. I'm from Cleveland originally, but moved to Chicago for school. And then I went to LA for 10 years. And then I came back. I always knew we'd come back to the Midwest, just close to family. And it feels like home.
So you grew up in Cleveland. Why was your family there?
Why was my family? That's a great interview question that nobody's ever asked me.
We ask the in-depth questions here on the Tall Mike Wine podcast.
My family was there because that is where my great-grandparents, after they immigrated from Lebanon, at least on my dad's side, came to reside. There's a fairly large Lebanese population in Cleveland, not as much as Detroit, but a fairly large one.
Okay.
And that's where they started their life here in America.
So your mom, your dad, did you have siblings?
So my mom was already there. They married into a predominantly mixed European-Irish family. And then my dad's side Lebanese, I have 2 siblings.
When young Vince would come in for dinner, was there wine on the table? Were the adults drinking wine?
Always. Yeah, my dad actually imported wine along with other things from Italy for years when he was younger. Things like, cigarettes, candies, things like that in the 80s.
Okay.
I remember you'd go down in my basement and, Riuniti, Lambrusco.
On ice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Exactly. So he would help import that. There was a bunch of patio umbrellas, promotional umbrellas in our basement for the Riuniti. Wine was always around. My dad didn't formally teach me about wine, but I definitely was interested in it. I'd get a little sip here and there. And those are kind of my first memories of wine.
So it was important to the family and a part of the meal.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And then I didn't really truly get into it, though, until I moved to Chicago. Mm-hmm. When I went to school, wanted to get a waiting job, serving job, kept getting told you can't get it because you don't have wine experience.
Where'd you go to college?
DePaul University.
Great.
Lived on the north side in Lincoln Park in Chicago. I had a job at a Lebanese place that was not really wine heavy, casual, but I wanted a job at the nice Italian place called Sapori Trattoria.
Okay.
It was this catch-22. They said, you need wine knowledge to get the job, but you can't get the wine knowledge without having the job. At the time, YouTube wasn't...
Italy is kind of a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, and so I started doing my best to research, to read books, things like that, but I didn't love how challenging it was to find this information. You fast forward, I was trying to be a musician, singer-songwriter in Los Angeles. I was working in restaurants on the side. Still wanted the wine information, took my certified sommelier exam at my hotel, luckily could pay for my classes.
With the court of master sommeliers?
Did the court, also did a couple WSET, so I did both. I liked that process, especially WSET does a great job educating, I think, but didn't like that it costs so much money.
It's not cheap.
It's not cheap. And if you're young and in the industry and you want this knowledge, well, again, how are you going to get it?
Right.
So that was how Via Vino was born, when I fell out of the music and I decided, what can I do? I can make the resource that I wanted when I was looking for wine education.
Let's get a little more granular on that whole time span there. So you went to college, you went to DePaul. What were you studying at that time? Were you studying music?
I wanted to study music. Good story. I My whole life was leading up to being a musician. I was the captain of my drum line. I was the captain of my show choir. I was a musician through and through. That was what I was going to do.
It's in your blood.
It's in my blood. I got into a few music schools, but I didn't get into DePaul's music school. You try out your senior year of high school.
Okay.
But you can still go to the school. So what happens with music schools is there's a couple like specialties like this. You get into the school academically, but then you also have to try out to be accepted to the music school. And they said no. I could have gone to another school that accepted me in the music program, but I wanted to go to DePaul. I liked Chicago when I visited it, kind of fell in love with it actually. And so I said, all right, I'm going to go anyway. I'll try again my sophomore year. First year, you're doing your gen eds anyway. So you try out sophomore year. Try out sophomore year. I don't get in again. I don't know if you can like put yourself back to that time period. You're 18, 19, that was my whole life. Like that was your life crumbling down. I was going to
You're not playing the long game at that point. You're thinking about what is now. This is my dream. I have to
This is my dream. And you took it away. You said, I can't do it. So now I have to find something else to do. And at the time, like I said, devastated, depressed. I went to the IT school at DePaul. I was good at computers. Interactive media was the major I chose.
Okay.
This is one of those stories where if you put good work and good effort into something, I have this expression I follow, good will be good. No, you might not know where it will go, but it will go somewhere good. I put good work in. First year in sophomore year, I'm at this IT school. They say, hey, we're doing this program. It's called Atlantis. The government is trying to encourage cooperation between universities in America and universities in Europe. Whoever wants to apply can apply. We're going to pay for you to spend 6 months in France with a bunch of French students, and then 6 months in Sweden with a bunch of Swedish students. And then all those students, the French and Swedish students, are going to come to America. They're going to spend a year with you. And it was the greatest experience of my life up until that point. I had never been abroad as a kid. We didn't travel really. That opened my eyes into, I have to find a way to do this. I want to explore wine. I want to explore food. I want to explore cultures. And if I hadn't gotten rejected from the music school, never would have happened. So,
okay.
One of those door closed, door open stories.
So was it when you went to France that you really started to feel like wine was a thing for you?
I had started those jobs I had mentioned right before that in the restaurants, but it really was when I went there. Because anybody who goes to Europe that first time, you see how wine is treated differently. It's treated as a food product rather
part of the meal.
Very good.
It's part of the meal.
It piqued the curiosity. I mean, I was young, right? So I didn't have any formal training.
Right.
But I started to be like, well, why are people obsessed with this? Why do these cost so much more than this? I went to the town of Saint-Emilion and you look in the windows and why does this wine cost $10,000? Even if it's not that you want to be I want to be trying those wine, but it's like, why? Can you tell me why?
Yeah, there's a lot of things about wine that cause the people on the outside looking in to say, why is that way? I don't understand. And even people on the inside can't explain it to you. You ended up in L.A. Were you then pursuing music?
Yeah, so I wouldn't give up the music dream. I always said I would get my degree, get that degree. Part of the parents' deal as well. Hey, listen, we'll send you to college, but you got to get a degree, and then you can go do what you want to do. So, okay. And my parents were always supportive. They said, you want to go get the music now? Go for it.
That's great.
So I moved to L.A. I spent about 5 years trying to be a singer-songwriter. I was good, not great. And in a highly competitive and highly luck-based industry, I kind of think you have to be great as a prerequisite. And then you also need a lot of luck. The other thing is that musicians, if you talk to them, or actors, they don't see any other possibility for themselves. They're like, I'm going to be a musician or I'm going to be homeless. And that's it.
It's the dream.
And I wasn't like that. I knew I was good at other things and I had other passions. And so I started falling in love with wine in the restaurants I was working in. And I had some great managers who were mentors.
And then you ended up staying in restaurants for a while. Did you do the full thing, the whole beverage management, wine director, et cetera, et cetera?
No, I didn't go through that. I actually spent most of my time not as a sommelier, but as a bartender. I found that that's where I could get the best combination of money and freedom.
I'd spent 20 years managing restaurants, and I was that guy, the bar manager, the beverage guy, and people would say, who makes the most money in the restaurant? And I'd say, well, in a fine dining restaurant, if there's a full bar, the bartenders make the most money.
You nailed it. Yeah. Most money, most freedom.
But also, it's like who has the most fun? The bartenders. Who works really hard? Well, the bartenders, they work really hard. I mean, the busboys work really hard. The dishwashers work really hard. But as far as the front of the house goes, the bartenders have a very special skill set, and it's not easy. But it's like that Frank Sinatra thing. You make it look easy because you have talent.
It's the only position in where you're simultaneously a cook and a server at the same time, and a busser for that matter. You know, you might have a bar back, but you're doing all the jobs.
And you're manufacturing all the drinks for the restaurant. On some nights when you don't have a second bartender, you know, you've got the ticker going, making all the drinks. You got the people at the bar. You got to be happy, happy, happy. You can't get away from them.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. So that was where I spent most of my time. I worked in a couple nice hotels, the Fairmont Hotel in Santa Monica. I helped open Wally's in Santa Monica, which is a very wine-heavy retail shop / restaurant that is really fun. Spent most of my time behind the bar, and then once COVID hit, that was the end. One of the silver linings for me was, okay, restaurants are closed. Kind of nudged me further into Vias for Vino. At that point, I had already started it and done some episodes on the side, self-funded.
Okay.
And said, you know what? If I'm going to go for it, this is a good opportunity to do it.
All right. I'm going to talk about the development of that in just a sec. But first, we have to talk about what's in my glass.
Yeah, I'm quite curious.
I'm going to show you a label, and I want to know if you've seen this label before or you know this name.
Yeah, that is an Italian producer.
It is an Italian producer. That is Bibi Graetz. And Bibi Graetz is somewhat of a cultish wunderkind, making some very interesting wines from Tuscany, and he paints the labels as well. This bottle was actually given to me by a friend of mine, Brian, who was on one of the early episodes of the podcast for my birthday last year, my 60th birthday. I had a big birthday dinner, and people brought bottles of wine to drink, and it was an amazing night. But Brian brought this bottle and said, this is not to open tonight. This is for you to open some other time. And the reason he was so excited about it is because this wine, this is the 2018 Testamatta Bibi Graetz Toscana. So it's a Tuscan red made from Sangiovese, but don't call it a super Tuscan. They don't want you to call it that. The reason my friend Brian was so excited about this wine is because it got 100 points from Decanter Magazine. So he said, this is a 100-point wine. I want you to enjoy it. I thought last night I would have a couple glasses with dinner, and then today I would have a few more glasses with our recording. So this is second day, and I have to tell you that the first word that pops into my head about this wine is rusticity.
That's Italy, man. That's what Italy screams when it's done right. Rustic is the word, 100%.
Well, the thing is, I'm used to seeing Toscana on the label, and I think, okay, that's a super Tuscan. That's going to be a big, polished wine made for the American palate, which likes rich fruit along with a little bit of rusticity sprinkled in. In this case, that is not the case. And that's why they don't want you to call this a super Tuscan. They're making very rustic Italian-style wine. So this is all about tree bark, potpourri, dried flowers, dried cherries, extremely rustic. This is one of those wines that a lot of people say, if you try and get into wine via the Italian wine door, you're going to have a hard time because they're hard to drink if your palate is not acclimated to things that are not fruit-based. And this is one of those wines. It's delicious and it's very complex, but I would not want to pour this wine for somebody who was not already attuned to wines that were not fruit forward, because this is definitely not a fruit forward wine, but it does have that 100-point score from Decanter. Not all the critics agree. James Suckling gave it 97 points. Wine Enthusiast gave it 93 points. And the Wine Advocate only gave it 92 points. And if you look this wine up on the Cellar Tracker website, people are all over the road on Cellar Tracker when it comes to this wine. There are people that are saying 100 points. I don't get it. I give it 80 points. It tastes like tree bark. So it's definitely a wine that people have opinions about. And I will say this is my pocket review better on day 2 because it's really opened up. And it is starting to give me a little bit of the cherry, and it's mellowing out.
What year is it?
2018. And I don't really think this is going to go another 10 years. I think this is drink it now, drink it within the next 5 years or so. I don't think he's making wines that are going to age forever and ever and ever, at least not for me. And again, when people ask, how long should we age the wine? I always say that's depends on how you like your wine. You might want this wine to go another 10 years and have it soften and soften and soften and get really rustic. That's not my palate.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you said that, though. I mean, to me, Italy, I always, if I'm blind tasting, like, Italy is so Italy. It's usually pretty easy to call out if it's done in that classic rustic style. There's nothing in the world that has that quite the way Italy does. And that's all across all regions in Italy to me. That's what's wild.
Now,
Perfect.
Tell me, you said you started working on Vias for Vino during COVID, but you'd already been working on it. Tell me what made you start working on it. What was the first step?
It was not going to be a wine show.
Okay.
It was going to be a wine tasting kit that happened to have some video attached.
Okay. So that was the initial idea. You're working in restaurants and you thought, it'd be kind of fun to do a thing.
Well, I thought I want to give people the educational tool without having to spend what they'd have to spend for the classes.
Right.
So I wanted to send a little kit of, let's say, 20 mini bottles of wine.
Okay.
And then it would be a video that explained them all. I quickly learned that shipping wine, near impossible in America, bottling in smaller bottles, proprietary.
Right.
And I would have to go through who owns that.
Sure.
And then we filmed the first couple episodes and we put those out and we saw such a response to those episodes. Not in terms of volume, not like we weren't getting millions of views on these episodes, but in terms of excitement that I said, there's something here.
People were giving you the kind of feedback that made you think, okay, we're close. We're close to the target here.
The type of feedback I never got as a musician. Let's put it that way. It felt like I was rolling a boulder uphill my whole life as
now
a
you're
musician.
doing a wine video and people are like, yeah.
Yes. There were,
We can play stadiums with this.
Yes. And so we filmed the first episode, to answer your question, was I had the idea, how do I get this done? I didn't come from a movie background, but I knew I could be fairly personable in front of the camera. I was a musician, so I was used to being on stage.
And you were in L.A.
And I was in L.A., and my bartender that I worked with, who I still work with today, he's our main DP, our main cameraman. His name is Rio.
Okay.
He was just getting into, I don't want to be a bartender the rest of my life, and getting into camera work. And so we went up on very, very shoestring budget. As I mentioned, now our shoots are 7 days and 6 people. This was 2 people in 2 days up to Santa Barbara. It was the closest wine region to LA. First episode we ever filmed. And I got really lucky that I got 2 incredibly charismatic people to interview because they kind of carried me when I didn't know what I was doing. I got Wes Hagen, who at the time worked for J. Wilkes Wines. He works all over Santa Barbara. He does a couple different winery consultant gigs now. And I got Jeff Olson, who unfortunately passed away, but he was the chef owner of Industrial Eats, which if you know Santa Barbara, that's just an institution up there. Both of them luckily said yes, because I didn't have anything to show them. I had an idea, and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. I come up, will you give me a shot? They did. We filmed that first one. Once we had one to show off, well, first I learned to edit. That I learned was the part of the process that was time consuming and expensive to hire out. So I said, I better learn how to do it. So I learned to edit, watch some YouTube tutorials. My other passion, if you want to get into it, is entrepreneurship. I think that you can go and do anything these days in 2025. You used to need a helicopter to get the drone shots that I spent a couple $100 on a drone for. So it's an amazing time to be alive. So I learned how to edit. I put out the first episode, had good success, now had something to show people. Filmed Paso Robles and Napa next. That was the first season, 3 episodes. And then we kept going. Then those were all self-funded, saved up from bartending, paid my crew, stayed in crappy hotels. You know, as we've gotten every year, we can do a little more. We can get a little more sponsorship. We can go bigger. It's tough because every year I'm able to somehow obviously bring in a little more, but then I spend it all on production. It's like I keep upping the production. The Georgia episode's an hour and 10 minutes long. My first episodes were 20 minutes. So, you know.
Okay. But people are sticking with you, right?
Oh, yeah. If anything, I mean, we're at the point where we might be looking at hiring and expanding because now the limitation is my time.
Right.
You know, we are really seeing pretty awesome success. I'm not in a mansion in Beverly Hills, but we're doing well enough that I feel comfortable saying we're growing, we're expanding, and people really enjoy the episodes.
That's really amazing. What are some of the upcoming episodes you got in the planning stages?
So I told you Croatia is going to happen. That's for sure coming out.
Okay.
All the other ones I'll hint at, but one, because I don't like to jinx things, and two, because nothing's signed.
Okay.
I will tell you that I'm aggressively looking in a part of the world that we haven't done any episodes yet. It's in the Southern Hemisphere.
Okay.
If you have any fans of the show listening, they can pontificate on what that is. I'm looking at an up-and-coming American region, not California, not Oregon, not Washington.
Okay.
And kind of up-and-coming new area.
That's good. That's good tease. I like that.
Yeah. And then I have a unique concept for an episode that is European. It would be something completely different than we've done before. We usually do one region per episode. This would be a multi-region, multi-country episode.
Okay, that's something I was actually thinking about as I was binge watching. I'm like, okay, he seems to be doing one region per episode. What happens when he's done most of them? Is he going to go back and do a second pass, or is he going to have to start doing different kinds of thematic things?
Yeah. Well, luckily, the wine world is cool enough and big enough.
Yeah, it's endless.
I think
it's really endless.
I got a while to go before I hit even the major regions. Forget some of the minor ones, but like I've yet to do the bulk of Eastern Europe.
Right.
Things like places like Hungary.
Well, you did one episode in Sonoma, and I work in Sonoma, and I know you could do like several weeks in Sonoma and just keep going on and on and on and on because
that's
that
it.
many wineries.
And Napa, Napa was one of our first episodes. I mean, we're due to revisit some of these early episodes too. We did one episode for the whole state of Oregon. So there's definitely the opportunity to revisit. I'm not interested in that yet, most likely. I just think there's too many amazing places in the world to explore to go back to a place quite yet. But I think eventually I want to refilm some of the early episodes, simply because if you look at Santa Barbara, our first episode we ever filmed, we've come a long way. So I know I could do that area better. In fact, that's my favorite California wine region personally.
Okay.
Sorry, I know you live in Sonoma, but
that's fine. Everybody likes what they like,
at least from a wine perspective.
I work in Sonoma, but my favorite wine region is in Washington, and I loved your Walla Walla episode.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a big deal at the time because Madeline Paquette agreed to be on our episode there, and she's
a rock star.
Yeah, she's a friend now, and that was cool because she lives there. She's a big advocate of Washington wine.
Indeed. All right, now tell me a little bit more about you in your off time. What's your go-to non-wine beverage, and when do you regularly enjoy it?
I am a big cocktail fan. It goes back to the bartending years. I love, actually, when I go to a new city, I'm usually asking and trying to find the best cocktail bars, not the best wine lists.
What spirit are you looking for?
It doesn't matter. I love cocktails in general.
Okay.
Like the art of craft cocktails gets me excited.
Yeah.
There's very little that I won't drink in that regard. It's more about the balance of the cocktail. So like last night I made myself a Trinidad Sour, which is one of my favorite underrated cocktails.
Rum drink?
No, sounds like it would be.
It does.
But it is actually a cocktail that's primarily composed of bitters. So Angostura bitters?
Yeah.
Usually put a couple dashes in a drink.
Okay.
This is a cocktail that is, the main spirit is about 1.5 ounces of Angostura bitters.
Okay.
You balance that with lemon.
That's interesting.
And orgeat, which is kind of like this is kind of like the build of a rum drink.
Sure.
Orgeat is an almond
Orgeat, which I love.
sweetener. And then you fortify it with a little bit of bourbon or rye. It's one of my favorite drinks. It's very, very spiced. It's not an entry-level cocktail, but it's balanced and fun. But that's just what I was drinking last night. I mean, I love cocktails in general.
All right. Do you have a desert island wine, a favorite for all time?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. I
do too.
What's your favorite wine? What's your favorite wine? Because it's so dependent upon the meal or who you're with, or what you're doing.
I'm with, what I'm eating, where I'm at, what's available.
Going back to Santa Barbara a little bit, I'm a big fan of Santa Barbara Syrahs. I love the blends they give of old world, pepper, earth, spice, but also you get the blueberry pie thing going on from riper California fruit. So that's an all-time favorite of mine. And I'm a big fan of Loire Valley Chenin Blancs. That's also, Sauvignon is where my heart lies. Aged Sauvignon. I mean, one of the wines that was my aha wine was a Nicolas Joly Sauvignon.
Chenin Blanc is kind of a sleeper. You don't think about it. It's mixed into a lot of those great Bordeaux whites. The South Africans make some really nice Chenin Blancs.
South Africa is one of those places that we will get to on the show. It's just a matter of when. That's one of those, like, the world is huge. I haven't even been anywhere in South Africa. Yeah. In South America, I've only done Chile. I haven't done Argentina. I haven't done Uruguay. Brazil's making wine. So I've got a lot of places to get to.
The world of wine is big, and it just keeps getting bigger.
I want to do Japan.
Japan? Oh, yeah, sure. Have you been a guest on many podcasts?
I have, yeah. At least a fair amount. Where's this going?
I was going to say, do you have a favorite podcast you can share with us? Wine-related or not?
Wine-related or not? A favorite podcast? I'm not going to go wine-related only because, one, I'll be singling out somebody who's been gracious enough to have me on there, but, kind of excluding some of the others. Non-wine-related, I love a podcast called The Economics of Everyday Things. It's from NPR.
Okay.
And they take an obscure topic that you would never have thought much about. People used golf balls, and they'll spend 15 minutes diving into the market and the economics behind used golf balls or something.
That's amazing.
Along the lines. It's fun.
Okay. I'll check it out for sure. Yeah, we like to touch on a lot of things here on the Tall Mike Wine Podcast, which is the wine podcast. It's not all about wine, because all about wine could be boring in the wrong hands. Thanks so much for hanging out.
This is a lot of fun. I love doing these because it just gives me a chance to meet really fun people. I had not known too much about your podcast before it was introduced to me, and I started diving in and listened to a few episodes. I know you just had Karen McNeil on just a few episodes ago. I got to listen to hers.
Bible.
Yes, and I love the long-form format. I think it brings so much more to the earth than short-form. It's why my platform is long-form. Everybody told me when I started, why are you not making these 5 minutes, 10 minutes, short-form? Right. And I said, because I can't tell the story that needs to be told in that amount of time.
People ask me at the winery when I hand them a coaster and I say, will you check out my podcast after they've, sat for a tasting with me? And they say, oh, is this a podcast about wine? And I say, I call it the Wine Podcast. It's not about wine because mainly it's a podcast about life. I have a guest. We talk about our lives because we are not just wine. All of us in the biz or people who love wine. It's not just wine. There's more to it than that. But it all comes back to wine at some point. So, yeah, I like to get behind the whole idea. How did it all happen for you? Where did you come from? Why was your family in Cleveland? Those are all things that make you today. And I think that's important to know.
And these are the kind of conversations that when you're not on a podcast, but you're around a table, wine helps facilitate. And that is, it's the truth. And that is the heart, not to continue to plug, but that was the real feeling I got from Georgia, was how much they value that. Right. And that made me happy because we don't have enough of that these days.
The Tall Mike Wine Podcast was conceived and is written, produced, edited, and maintained by yours truly. To peek behind the scenes, follow me on Instagram at Tall Mike Wine. For your very own set of official Tall Mike Wine Podcast coasters, drop an email to tallmikewine@gmail.com. To help keep the show commercial free, become a sponsor for as little as $3 a month. Click the Support the Show button in the show notes or go to tallmikewine.com. Are you subscribed to the podcast? Be sure that you are, because I keep making them and you don't want to miss out. And if you're new here, scroll through the nearly 5 years of episodes. Let me know your favorites. Thanks again to Vince from V is for Vino. Check him out on YouTube. And be here next time when I count down my favorite wines of 2025. From my home studio in Novato, California, I'm Tall Mike Wine, a.k.a. Mike Stone. Keep swirling, keep sniffing, keep sipping. Cheers.